gray until they're like 90. I mean, my friends, some of my friends, their moms are like in their 60s or 70s, and they still have naturally jet black hair. It's crazy.
Sure, yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
So Asian actors are fortunate in that. It's
why somebody will.
Plus, a guy like Donnie Yen.
Some person we don't know that's listening to this podcast is going to be like, "Oh my God, these racist Asian."
Exactly. Plus, someone like Donnie Yen, I mean, he keeps in good shape. He works out every day.
Yep.
Because of what he does. Yeah. So even though he may be old, he's, like the saying, 40 is the new 30, 50 is the new 40. These guys eat better, train longer, work out, they...
Dude, look at Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan is in his early 60s.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's in his mid-40s.
That is true, yes.
He could totally pass for like 45.
How old is Jet Li now?
Jet Li, who the fuck knows? He could be 50 in his 30s.
Yeah.
And anybody who hears this and thinks that it's racist hasn't a fucking clue, because we couldn't be more complimentary. These Asian people just age incredibly well. They just do. It's just a fucking fact.
If I was an agent in Hollywood and I had like young guys coming out of like film school, college wanted to be a thing, I would be like, get to the freaking gym, start doing sit-ups, get a six-pack, and join a martial arts thing. Just learn how to do some karate and some kung fu, and then because because if you're every like 28, and even some of these action stars that are being in, like, look at Will Smith. How old is Will Smith? He's still doing action movies.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I'm looking at Jet Li is going to be 54 in April.
What'd I say? What the fuck? What did I tell you? I said he's 50 something, but he looks 30 something.
Well, let's see how old Jackie Chan is. But yeah, you're right. Will Lee too. Will Lee has to be in his mid to late 50s, right?
Who the hell's Will Lee?
Will Smith. Will Smith.
Oh. Or even like Ben Affleck. How old is Ben Affleck? They're like, everybody's excited for him to do a Batman movie. Okay. You would think you would have got like a 25-year-old guy, but no, they got Ben Affleck, and he was great.
All right, Jackie Chan's going to be 63 in April.
Told you.
Or Tony Stark. Look at him.
Yeah.
How old's
He's
Robert?
In his 50s. Robert Downey's in his 50s. He's 50-something, 52.
Oh. One of the things I loved about last night, the Logan movie,
Will Smith is only going to be 40.
Old man makeup. They had to put him in old man makeup to play an old man.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart is in amazing shape for his age.
Yeah.
They made him look way older in that movie than he does in real life.
Yep.
Wow, Will Smith is only going to be 49 in September.
Really?
Yeah, well, I guess he's been acting for like 30 years. That's why. That's why we think he's older.
Plus, he was on the scene as a rapper before that.
Yeah, that was in the late 80s, right? Early 90s? Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was rapping, and then he went into Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then from Fresh Prince...
why he went into the Fresh Prince? He was bankrupt.
Ah.
He owed so much money, the record company did whatever happened. There was some funny business going on. The record company took so much money from him, he wasn't going to make it, and then he made it.
He probably didn't read his contracts like most people in the music industry.
Well, did you ever see the Behind the Music with TLC? When they line out how much money, like, this costs this costs this. They had that. Remember TLC? Think of how big they were?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Left Eye goes like, oh, yeah, you big, you sold how many copies, but your agent gets this much, your manager gets this much, the record company takes this point, they charge you, like, everything that sort of you think the record company would put up, they put up front, and then they get it back from you.
Yep.
Absolutely. The way it used to be was that artists would get advances. They would get these, $100,000 to $500,000 advances, and that was supposed to go into the production of the music. But a lot of these rappers and a lot of these dance music artists, for example, I'm mentioning those because those are the ones that I actually had direct connection with, direct interaction with in the 90s. They would piss that money away on nonsense, fancy cars and bottle service at clubs and, expensive houses, and not thinking that once the record sold, they weren't going to see shit until the record label recouped their investment.
Yeah.
And then what was left over would get divided up amongst the managers and agents and lawyers and so on and so forth. So some of these people, it's not surprising that Will Smith was broke and had to go to TV to make money. He's probably pissing his money away.
I think
because most of these guys, No, most of these guys got money and they just blew their wad on stupid shit. Because a lot of these singers were young. They were teenagers to their early 20s. They went from being ghetto broke to fucking suburban rich overnight, and they didn't know how to handle it, and they pissed their money away. Instead of investing it in their career, in studio time and production and so on and so forth, they were just buying a lot of crazy shit. They was, oh shit, I got $500,000, woohoo! And they went and bought a house. Not realizing that the record has to sell, and the first chunk of money that comes in is going right back to the label that funded them.
Yep. And then mortgages show up every month.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why MC Hammer went broke. I mean, he was one of the biggest artists in the world. He was pissing money away on his entourage.
Yeah.
But I mean,
he was helping.
A different story altogether. He wanted to be the good guy. He didn't want to fire any.
Yes, he was helping. You know what? He was helping everybody that came with their hand out.
But
everybody, because he was religious. You know,
what those gold-plated
the faucets.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking gold.
Yeah, he spent. Yeah, I mean, I can understand trying to take care of friends and family, but when you start buying like a different car for every day of the week, gold faucets, horses, it's like really, dude, it's like, come on.
He went crazy with his money, but a lot of it was because he was very religious. He had a really good heart, and he never said no to anybody that came to him with a sob story. So if you remember, back in his heyday, he went on stage. There were like 50 guys with him.
Yeah.
There were guys being paid just to stand there on stage because they needed work, and they came to him and they were like, "Yo."
Well, like I said, I don't find anything wrong with that. If you got a good heart and you're taking care of people, fine.
But
I mean,
the fucked up part is as soon as he got broke, they scattered like roaches.
Oh, of course. I mean, like I said, I don't mind having a good heart, taking care of people to a point. But like I said, when you start buying gold faucets, horses, cars, that's when I lose all respect for you. If you're going to lose your money taking care of your friends and family, fine. If you're going to spend your money on gold faucets, I have no respect for you.
It's a ridiculous. It is a ridiculous extravagance, but again, if you look at, let's say you look at Tyler Perry or other guys who went from rags, they went from rags to riches. Well, he was dirt fucking poor, homeless, at the absolute bottom of the human food chain, and brought himself back up to from nothing. He was written off by pretty much the world, and he got that mansion that he filmed several of his movies in because he wanted a physical representation of how far he had come from being dirt poor, from being in the street.
Tyler Perry's a guy. He gets no promotion in the mainstream press.
He doesn't need it.
Nobody, nobody but black people go see his movies. You know what I mean? And he doesn't have much of an international market. And every movie he comes out makes bucks.
Yeah, because he caters to his audience.
Yes.
Just like Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith has not made a great big movie in a long time, but he'll always have work because Kevin Smith knows his audience. He knows what they want to see, and that's who he makes movies for. Tyler Perry's the same way. Tyler Perry, I got a lot of respect for him because years ago, he put out, I don't know if it was Diary of a Mad Black Woman or one of those movies. He put it out without advancing it to the critics for reviews. He was just like, you know what? Screw you. This is,
I'm never going to get a great review by anybody.
Right. So he just put it out without letting the reviewers get to it. The reviewers slaughtered the movie, and it still had a great opening weekend.
And he had 2 TV shows on TNT,
Yeah, he knows his audience.
Exactly.
In this day and age, you don't need advertising. Doesn't fucking put asses in seats anymore or sell units. It's more of public relations. It's more interaction with your fan base.
Also, how much money could he spend on a budget-wise on any of these movies?
I don't know, probably 20, 30 million maybe.
Gary and I were talking about horror movies. Like, they spend nothing on horror movies, and they make all that, they spend $3 million, and they make $30 million. Boom.
Yeah, but someone like Perry, it's like he caters to his niche audience. And that's all. You don't have to shoot for a worldwide release. As long as you cater to your loyal fans, you could be successful.
But he's smart, and it's a very, he's not.
It's a good business plan, you know. He knows he's not going to sell overseas.
Look at somebody look at guys like Russell Peters or Aziz Ansari. You never see ads for them doing stand-up, and they are Russell Peters, I think, is the highest paid stand-up comedian on the fucking earth.
Really?
Where do you see advertisements for stand-ups? I don't remember any of them.
Well, they have podcasts, you hear it on the radio every now and then. But Russell Peters, for example, he sells out arenas, and you never hear a fucking ad.
Aziz Ansari is not funny. I'm sorry.
He's not. Aziz Ansari is funny in TV when somebody writes shit for him, but his stand-up is hard.
Even then, I don't get. Aziz Ansari's got a huge following in
He's got a massive following because he's got the Indian audience. Just like Russell
not just the Indian audience. I know some people that like him. I think he's okay. I think when he talks more about the way the reason why he has a large following is because he knows how to use social media. And I like it when he talks about social media for like today for like dating purposes. He wrote a book last year that talked about how dating habits have changed because of social media, texting and whatnot. That I find interesting. And stand-up, but I give him credit for knowing how to use social media the proper way to hype himself, to have this large following.
You're talking about Aziz Ansari, right?
Yeah, that's what I give him credit for. He was like really one of the first comedians to take advantage of social media to promote his specials, his books, his stand-up, his appearances. He also hooked up with some rappers in the early 90s. Remember, he was hanging out for a while. He was taking a lot of shots of food he was eating at in the restaurants.
I remember him. He's been around that long, since the early 90s?
No, early 2000s, I mean. Early 2000s he's been around.
You're validating my point that advertising does way less for sales or viewership than the
actual person himself.
I think that too. With like say a comic book movie, why do you have to advertise a comic book movie when you've got an army of geeks online that can't wait to put it on their blog, can't wait to tweet it out, can't wait to put it on their YouTube channel, can't wait for that because they can't just sell to them. They got to sell to people who watch TV.
They have to sell to the non-comic book fans, you know? So you're hoping to get these nerds who write blogs and vlogs and whatever, they're probably hoping that some non-comic book fan will come across their blog and, oh, wow, well, they gave a good review for this Captain America movie, so let's go see it, you know?
Well, the thing is advertising is wasted on comic fans. They're going to go see it no matter what they say.
Yes.
The fact that it's based on a comic book property, no matter how much they fucking bitch about who was cast, or whether the character was turned black or Spanish or Asian or whatever the fuck, no matter what, the ones that bitch the most, they'll be the first motherfuckers in line.
Exactly. So you're advertising for the non-comic crowd. That's what you're really...
Right. They don't even have to pay attention because those guys just eat their own... Those guys talk a bunch of shit. And they don't stand by their own conviction. What these companies are trying to do is get in non-comic fans and get those and expand their audience and get people in who have no idea about the comic book character or the comic book universe in general.
I remember right before, the whole geek culture explosion got in, I remember being at cons and thinking there were more more blogs, more podcasts, people walking around with, than there are fans. You know what I mean? Like every fan had a blog. I couldn't believe how many people were being interviewed at cons when like the Cabanero show. I was just like, cool. Then there was more podcasts than there was audiences. You know what I mean?
You know what kills me about comic fans in general, and again, this is a gross generalization, but let's just say going by what I've seen online, not real life, but the diehard comic fans are passionate about the comic book genre and are passionate about their characters, and they don't want them to go away. They want comics to be around forever. They want to see all these incredible characters on screen. I mean, we're in the day and age where, like, the fucking Guardians of the Galaxy is $1 billion franchise now. A comic no one thought about it in, like, 30 years. Marvel can pretty much put up Squirrel Girl and make that shit $1 billion movie if it's done right. And instead of being appreciative of the fact that it's got a larger audience than ever imaginable, and that this will keep the genre alive and blossoming and evolving over the years, they're so hateful of it. It's like they hate. It's like they hate what they love. Is it Gary?
What? What are you talking about?
No, he's not talking. Relax.
You just sit there and make sure the thing is recorded.
Shut you! I'm going to cut you guys out now.
I think online. I think it's like.
Don't forget, I'm editing this.
You know, when you're sort of annoyed at something, it's almost like a bee in your bonnet. You got to get it out. But like if you like something, it's like But I think there's a little bit of that. I think that's a lot. I think we could talk about like that in the future. Like I was saying to Gary, this industry has got a weird sort of thing where the fans became the creators. You know what I mean? Or over time got by. You know what I mean? Like it's a really weird thing.
They think they're the creators. That's the problem. Is the fans aren't creators.
Jeff Johns and all these guys that are writing comics now, they used to be the fans.
But isn't that the same for any genre?
Not really. I don't think.
Oh hell yeah, it is.
Wait.
Like TV, you just, you know what I mean? Like not, music-wise, but
No, TV too. Joss Whedon has admitted he was a big fan of watching TV growing up, and he wanted to be. But the thing is, the thing is that what we were talking about last night, Pat, is that when we go see a movie or a TV show and we don't like it, we could bitch about it, but that's all we can do. We consume it.
Right.
But with comic books, we go to conventions, we write letters to the comic book editors. You don't do that with movies and TV. Even pre-internet, fans interacted with comic book creators through conventions and through the mail. So we fans have more of a say than someone who grew up just watching MASH. If you didn't like a certain episode of MASH, you didn't go, fuck that writer, I'm never going to watch anything by him again. Because, you barely knew who the writer were. But comic books was always a little bit more interactive with their fandom than movies or TV, which is why I think fans feel like they have more of a say in creating.
Comic books was interactive because at the end of every comic back in the days, it always had the... it always had a different title, but it was always like letters to the editor or
the letters page
or whatever, right? So, but that was also a clever invention. I think Stan Lee invented that, right? Where it made the readers want to come.
Well, there were always letter pages. Stan made Marvel with his Stan Lee soapbox feel more like a club that everyone was invited to and everyone had a say.
Right. But again, it was perpetuating the illusion of inclusivity, that what you said mattered. It was an illusion. It wasn't really, they were still going to write whatever stories they were going to write, but they printed a couple, a dozen letters or so on the letters page in the back of a comic, and they would answer with like a paragraph, 3 sentences to a paragraph, and it would keep all the other readers writing and tuning in and buying more issues because they were hoping to see their letter mentioned.
Exactly.
By the way, letter page story. I'm reading the letter. 99, whatever the hell.
Pat, we just lost you.
Letter.
Yeah, for a second you got interrupted, Pat. Repeat what you said.
All right, so I'm reading the letter page on X-Men 2099, and I'm reading this letter, and I'm going, wow, this sounds familiar. They read the letter. I look down, there's my name at the bottom. I'm like, oh, I forgot I even wrote it.
Nerd.
I knew Pete was going to say nerd. I knew it. Wow, that's cool. You got a letter printed. How many letters did you get printed?
I think I've had 3.
Nerd.
I've never written any.
I've written letters and gotten rejected.
Stop writing us, freak.
Yeah. But
now,
man, we got off topic tonight.
How Mark Wade is like, they're talking about Twitter and like, blocking, this kind of thing, which I think is, to use your personal Twitter as your professional Twitter, I think it's insane.
Yeah, you're going to get inundated. But, I just think it's a double-edged sword because you want people to love what you do, but then the fans become so proprietary with the material, they act like they wrote it, and it's like, well, I didn't like what you did with such and such in this issue, and I don't like that costume. And it's like, oh, fucking get over it. Don't read it anymore.
No, like I sent Gary this clip. This guy, Professor Jordan Peterson's talking about mythos, and he's talking about one of his. I want to figure out who one of his students. But he said when he's in Harvard, he had a student who went on to be a comic book writer, and he talked about comics a lot of time. And he goes, it's sort of a shared mythos in that like Batman can't do certain things with Batman. Remember how everybody was saying about Batman vs. Superman when Batman was just fucking wasting people left and right in that chase scene. We were like, what the hell is that?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I do think the fandom, it is a shared fandom, and the fans are gonna, fan is real fanatic. They are gonna say, if somebody, it's like Garth Ennis wrote Batman or Superman, he didn't wrote them, and fans would yell about it.
I guess that's true because that is a fair point because. When Kevin Smith was writing Batman, and there was, I don't remember what happened in the issue, but Batman pisses himself.
Yeah, the Widening Gyre it was called, or something like that, and that's not even finished.
Yeah, he was getting tortured by, I don't know, something happened, and Kevin Smith felt like, well, in reality, if this particular thing was being done to you, you would lose bladder control or whatever. And so for whatever reason, Batman pissed himself, and he got blasted by fans.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's say that's true, but I mean, this is a Batman comic. We don't want to see Batman piss himself. We want Batman.
Right.
Batman
Exactly.
taking a beating. What's the fun in Batman pissing himself?
Exactly. I mean, like he tried to make it early in Batman's career. He hadn't figured out everything, but still, do we really need? Does that really add anything to the characterization of Batman or to the mythos?
But I feel like a lot of that quote unquote realization, the realism of superheroes is kind of stupid. It's almost ridiculous. It's almost better to just keep them the way they were, or to go back to the golden age where they were larger than life. They were these characters that could only exist on rooftops and in the clouds because they were ideals. They weren't, they were people that became gods in a sense, and the characters were written because they were like moral dramas, moral plays of morality. It was the good versus evil, so on and so forth. There were these high-minded concepts, and then you had. I blame the Brits when they invaded Marvel with the Ultimate. It was like Mark Millar and Garth Ennis and Warren Ellis and Grant Morrison. They brought this gritty realism to comics, and that seemed to sell well because it was so different at the time. But then everything got dark. Everybody became dark and gritty and violent and moody and hateful and angry. And what I think Patrick mentioned earlier is that there were no villains anymore because the heroes became the villains. So it's sort of like they took characters and they pulled them out of the sky and chained them to the ground to try and make them relevant. To try and say,
Frank Miller kind of did that too, and I think we were waiting. Like you said, this is the Wolverine movie we wanted. I think Batman and Wolverine were moving in that direction. Daredevil.
But those characters are supposed to be on the ground. When you take a character like Superman and you pull him out of the sky, and then you have him all moody and emo, it doesn't make any sense. You destroyed the whole purpose of the character.
Yes.
Like Shazam. You don't want to see Shazam fighting fucking criminals in an alley.
And along that vein, TFT's close Black Panther that he's doing now, he's a very talented writer. And there were times I'm reading it and I'm going, wow, that was really elegantly said. But I feel like he's bogging the Panther and Wakanda down in sort of real-life politics. Wakanda was supposed to be this magical city-state with this King Arthur-like king. You know what I mean? He's supposed to be, he's not supposed to be worried about political opposition and dissidents.
Right, yeah. He's using it as a platform to get his political points across.
No. He's trying to make it a more grounded thing. If Wakanda was around today, if Wakanda was in Africa, and it's T'Challa did all this stuff, he would, everybody has an option.
Yeah, the problem is that the comics were always like magical realism.
Absolutely.
The premise, like Peter Parker was relatable because he was a kid from Queens. He was picked on in school. He was always trying to pay the bills. The rent was always due. He was always broke. His costume was fucking handmade. You know what I mean? He was supposed to be like a guy we could relate to.
Exactly.
But he had these beyond normal, beyond superhuman abilities. He had the spider sense and it could stick to walls. And he could, at the time, in the old Marvel Universe, he could lift 15 tons. You know, he had incredible agility. So it was like you had to walk that fine line between realism and reality. And it seems like now they're getting too bogged down with reality and losing the idea of what makes a hero a hero. A hero has to be a little bit more than us. And I mean, and without getting too psychological about it, it almost factors into, like, you know how now there are no heroes anymore. Like, nobody wants a hero because then a hero makes them feel inferior, so they look to take the hero down.
And you see, the reason I don't know about you, but I've always loved, like, that genre of fiction, whether it be Western or fantasy books or superheroes. I look to them to inspire the best in me. You know what I mean?
You want hope. They were hope. They were symbols of hope. They gave you something to inspire.
Yes.
Now they don't. They're not aspiration. They're not aspirational characters. There was when they started.
By the way, Gary never aspired. By the way, he never aspired.
No, Gary's mean and miserable, and his heart is made of.
Apparently, feels the most close to is the vulture.
He sits brooding in a tower, watching all the happy people.
Absolutely.
Eating rats.
But next week I want to talk about this. The missing villains. Like I was saying, Gary, when was the last time you saw Spider-Man fight the Rhino?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because the age of the anti-hero with the Punisher, Deadpool, Constantine has overtaken the pure, good, noble, altruistic hero.
I think it's more like what Pete said. The heroes are the villain. ABX.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's like, because now you have these shades of gray and these anti-heroes, which, like you said, they're bogged more down in reality. And the age of, like, a Superman or a Spider-Man, who are purely altruistic, just seem to have gone by the wayside.
Civil War, it's ABX, it's Axis.
Yes, it is. I agree with you. It's all that shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're creating these shades of gray because, like you're saying, it's bogged down in reality. But I think a lot of that came from.
I think you're missing our point completely.
What are you talking about?
I am talking about let's have Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah.
And nobody's dark and gritty there. It's just shades of gray. They're forgetting the villains. They're like, wouldn't it be cool if Cyclops fought Captain America? Wouldn't it be cool if the bad guys were all good and the good guys were all bad?
But where does that come from, Patrick? Where does that? That's what I'm saying. The anti-hero, the shades of gray hero, like the Punisher, like Wolverine, like Constantine, who those are the ones that really, and Deadpool, those are the big characters of the last 40 years. And I think when you start doing the heroes become villains.
Wolverine, Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man. That's my lifetime. That's the biggest one.
No, Punisher was huge.
Big in the 90s, and then he dropped off the face of the earth, and now he's back.
Punisher's huge. Punisher was huge for 20 years. Deadpool is still huge. But those are the characters that created this reality. Will you shut up for a minute? God damn it. What I'm trying to say, God, you fucking talk without taking a breath. What I'm trying to say is because of the ascension of those heroes, you now have this hero versus hero, hero becomes villain, villain becomes hero, because of those popularity of the anti-heroes. That led into Civil War, because when you thought like Iron Man was pure good, now you realize Iron Man has now become like a government stooge. So he's not pure and altruistic anymore. He's working for the government. He has a reason. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have no more villains anymore. You have all these shades of gray because of the anti-hero and his popularity, which is bogged down in reality, which is what people wanted. But now there's, like you said, there's too much reality in comics.
But I think it also factors into, and again, at the risk of being too psychological, philosophical about it, I think it factors into the general mindset of the younger demographic where we're a culture of blame. like no one takes responsibility for their own actions anymore. Everybody has someone to blame, whether it's their parents or their upbringing or the government or whatever.
Yes.
So there's no real room in the modern landscape for an altruistic hero, for somebody who's just good and doing something for the good of doing it. It's like people find that harder to believe.
Harder to believe. Well, that's because of our natural cynicism.
Right. They find it easy. Right. Exactly. They find it easier to believe that the government is tapping everything, tapping their phones and all their devices, and that was behind the 9/11 conspiracy and things of that nature. It's much easier to believe these wild conspiracies than it is to believe that somebody could just want to help because they want to help.
Right. And like I said, look when the Punisher came into being, 72, 73. That was towards the end of the Vietnam War, towards, the beginning of Watergate. That put a lot of cynicism into the American psyche. And like you said, Pete, I agree with you. They can't believe that a person could just be altruistic, altruistic now.
The average millennial is extremely jaded, and teenage, again, it's a side effect of social media exposing people to the entire world with the inclusion of these crazy fake news sites mixed with real news sites. And, they're seeing, they can just go online and see women I went online and I saw a video of a woman being beheaded in the street in Saudi Arabia.
I saw that too.
Right? Did you see that? Well, cops are watching.
Yeah, well, that's their culture. That's their culture about how women are treated like third-class citizens.
Check it out. Just a sidebar for a second. In regards to that video, I showed it to a friend of a friend a couple of weeks ago because I was talking about the video and how fucking crazy it was, and he happened to be part Saudi Arabian, so he was able to translate. He was able to understand what was being said, and he said they dragged her out into the street because she had been raped by some other dude, and they blamed her for the rape. Now, mind you, she's in the full black headdress, black
burqa.
There's no part of her being shown. She's not showing an ankle, a finger, nothing. But she was raped, and they found her guilty of the rape. So they classified it as her being unfaithful. So the punishment for being unfaithful was fucking decapitation. So she got her head chopped off in the middle of the street. So when the average teenager, 20-something-year-old can just click and see that, and nobody came to that woman's rescue, and then you go and you put out a comic where the hero is flying in and saving the day, I guess it's kind of hard for them to relate, you know what I mean? Maybe that factors into the cynicism. So you get these writers who are former fanboys, and they're trying to mix, give their realistic, quote-unquote, take on, whatever character they got lucky enough to write, whether it's Daredevil or Spider-Man or the X-Men or whatever. And it's like I guess maybe they're growing up in an age where there are no heroes anymore. But it's like where do comic superheroes fit in this day and age where you have politicians and scandals left and right, and everybody gets caught out there doing some fucked up shit. Bill Cosby is fucking date raping women, and OJ fucking killed his girlfriend, and what was it? The Jeff Sessions is now, they found him in having interactions with Russian dignitary. There's all this gray area, all this corruption, all this scandal going on, and it's like, so where are the superheroes?
Well, like I said, the shades of gray we're talking about. You look at even the Jessica Jones TV show, the Luke Cage. Jessica Jones wasn't a pure. No. She had some baggage. Luke Cage has some baggage, so they're not. Spider-Man seems to be like the one, like, big iconic altruistic superhero. You know,
he wants to help. He wants to help because of Uncle Ben's death.
Yeah, he wants to help because of guilt.
Right.
Well, it seems
which you think about it, all the classic heroes were motivated by guilt and death.
Yes. Until
Batman's parents got killed, Superman's parents died.
Yeah, but that didn't motivate him to be Superman.
Well, he was motivated by his parents gave him they put the programming in those crystals. They shot him off to Earth.
They didn't do that. That came later.
Superman went to do good because of the upbringing of his parents.
Right, the Kents, right.
And
It's true.
plus, he had the ability.
Yes, but I mean, you look at the last 40 years.
America not guilt. Who else? Iron Man not guilt.
Iron Man was it guilt?
Oh, Iron Man is guilt. Iron Man is guilt because of all the weapons.
1960s Iron Man, when he had the gray armor, he got caught by the commies. He had the shrapnel in his chest. He got out of there. He wasn't guilt over somebody.
No, because he has guilt over because he was building weapons that were being used in these wars.
That was not in any of the original Stan Lee books.
No, probably not. But I forget the reason why Tony Stark.
Absolutely not.
Probably, I agree with you. I'm trying to remember, but why was Tony Stark in Vietnam in the very first Tales of Suspense?
It wasn't Vietnam, and it wasn't supposed to be the Vietnamese. It was supposed to be the Chinese,
but he was over in Asia. I thought.
Yeah.
Well, you can go down the line, and there's exceptions to the rule, but the most iconic characters were motivated by death and guilt.
Well, again with Superman.
Daredevil was, Spider-Man
was, Batman wasn't.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think everything started because of what happened 40 years ago with the Punisher in Vietnam. I mean, we had more characters born out of cynicism and anti-hero because of the last 40 years of our politics.
Yeah, maybe.
Like I said, why was Constantine such a big hit? He's just a prick bastard. He's
super cynical. He does help some people, but he almost always destroys one of his friends along the way.
Yeah.
While trying to do the right thing. And I think he was popular just because he was a bastard, just because he was a snarky bastard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But to me, that's an anti-hero when you're like a snarky, cynical bastard. You do things more for yourself than for the greater good. I mean, he does do things for the greater good, but that's only when push comes to shove.
And the thing is, if you're going to make these characters that are, let's say, more grounded in reality, no more capes and buccaneer boots and those stupid gloves with the pointy edges of them. The fucking Pirates of the Caribbean gloves.
Captain America.
If you're going to, right, exactly. If you're going to do that, then does the term superhero still apply? Like maybe they just have to be called something else. Maybe they're just vigilantes or something like that. Because the idea of a superhero is much higher than a regular human being walking around on the ground. Right? It's an iconic idea. It's something to aspire to. And the average person only seems to want to aspire to these superficial ideas, like a Kardashian or, some reality TV star or somebody that has money or, you know what I mean? Somebody that gets a lot of media attention. They don't want to aspire to somebody who's in a lab, completely unfamous, working on a cure for cancer or degenerative brain diseases or something like that. Like, that's not glamorous.
Not to cut you off, Pete, but God, did you notice the time?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's 22:11. I got to call California. Yes. we spent 45 minutes just talking about the Wolverine movie. No, we spent way longer. Right. Yeah, we spent way longer talking about the Wolverine movie by itself.
Fuck it. Structure, schmucture.
I know. We wanted to talk about
I also think
other things.
That I think the current writers look at some of the old villains as jokes.
Yes, that's what we talked about.
Trickster, the Toy Man, like the Wizard, Trapster, even Whirlwind, or you know what I mean? Those Reddit, the Shocker. I think everybody, I almost feel like everybody online thinks Shocker is a joke. Shocker was a good villain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they were all fun villains because, back then villains were just very cut and dry. They were
black
bad
and white.
They were bad.
It was black and white, yeah.
Right. And now nobody's bad anymore. But again, that could tie into the whole fucking rise of psychotherapy in the United States. Like, nobody's at fault for anything. Everybody has a story. Everybody can be explained away. That fucking asshole, that Dylan, whatever the fuck his name was, that shot up the church and killed 9 black people. They want to fucking investigate him. Why not just fucking put him in the ground like the piece of shit that he is? But all these serial killers get investigated now and their stories get told. And, he was beaten when he was a kid, or they didn't hug him enough, or nobody got him a fucking pony, or whatever the fuck the excuse is. You know, nothing's cut and dry anymore. There's no bad guys and good guys. Maybe there never were. It was just that we were kind of given this filtered reality because there was no internet growing up. We just had, you know, channels through 2 through 11 for, you know, entertainment and news.
Maybe.
So, you know, who knows? I mean, we did grow up in a fair. We did admittedly grow up in a bubble.
But then you had Woodward and Byrne. You know, they broke the Watergate thing.
Mm-hmm.
We had always magazine shows like.
But it took a while. I mean, who knew shit about? We didn't even know what the fuck the Middle East was when we were growing up. We didn't know about the war between the Jews and the Palestinians, or.
We did.
Yeah, we did. We did. Come on, Raid on Entebbe, the '72 Olympics.
Absolutely.
Remember there was a lot of plane hijacking. Remember there was a few plane hijackings.
Gary and I were kids. They were all over the news. We knew who Anwar Sadat was. We knew who, you know.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter won a Peace Prize for getting them together.
And remember, there were also a few plane hijackings in the '70s from terrorists.
12 years old. We didn't give a fuck about the news.
No, I don't think I didn't give a fuck either, but it was on the news.
Yeah, what Patrick said. We didn't give a fuck, but we knew it was around. You know, that was something for the government to deal with. You know.
From my point of view, there was like you would hear the names like Anwar Sadat or Stalin or whatever, but they were just names when you were a kid. It didn't mean anything. It was just sound. You know, that was something for adults to figure out.
Yes, for the government to figure out. Yeah, let the government deal with it. Well, I'm reading Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah, exactly, which was the appeal. We knew that it was, from my perspective, you knew it was something your parents were pissed off about, but you just didn't know what it was because they didn't talk to you about it.
Yes.
You know, when they would get drunk or they would get together, they would start bitching about politics or whatever, but it was almost like their language shifted and you didn't know what they were saying. They might as well have been going blah, 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 blah. You know, it wasn't like now where kids on their own can get on their own little device and absorb this information on a much deeper level than we ever could have. We didn't buy it. Who the fuck bought newspapers when you were 15 years old or 10 years old? You just didn't.
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Well, you fucking nerds. That's
Of course I did. I read the papers.
I wanted to read the sports page, but I read
the youngest one.
Yeah, the sports page in the comics broke into us, but then we read the news as well. You know, like, I remember reading the articles about when Sid Vicious killed Nancy Spungen in the Chelsea Hotel, the Son of Sam. Pete, you didn't read the papers when the Son of Sam was terrorizing the whole city in '77? That was fucking amazing news.
Yeah, I was 7. And I was still running around in the fucking street playing stickball and doing.
I was too, but I mean,
I didn't know shit about the Son.
Well, yeah,
the
all right.
Son of Sam was like a boogeyman. That was like
yeah, I agree with you.
But man, that was on the cover. Remember on the cover of the Daily News, they had all the police sketches and the women who were murdered.
That was kids telling each other like sort of ghost stories, boogeyman stories, like.
Yeah, it was.
But man, I remember reading all that. I loved the Son of Sam. I thought the Son of Sam was
Therein lies the problem, guys.
Spanish culture, it was a cuco. It was a ghost, dude.
Okay, what was that pronounced again? A cuco? Whoa. Hello? Hello? Whoa. Hello? Hello? Wow, did I have to... Oh, wow, you guys are there? Okay, I'm sorry. Wow. All right, something weird happened with my computer.
Wow.
All right. But yeah, wow, I remember always reading the news when I was a kid. I mean,
I'm nerd.
Thanks.
And also, I remember the nightly news didn't have all this sort of like, hey pal, how you guys doing over there? How you know?
That was the news was serious back then.
That's what I mean. So they got
that was Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather. That was serious when the news came on. When the news came on, I went and turned on the Atari. I was like, oh, the parents are going to watch this shit. I'm going to go watch Chips, or I'm going to play a fucking video game, or watch the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, by the way, you excited about the Chips movie?
No.
I think it's pretty good.
That's going to be a bomb. That is going to be a stink on ice. It's going to be awful.
Jesus, I don't even know who's in that, but I think the Baywatch movie will do well.
The fucking,
What's his name's in it?
my boy from Ant-Man, Spanish dude.
Pena.
Oh,
Pena.
And Veronica Mars' husband.
The
The guy that was in Parenthood. The guy Veronica Mars, Kristen Bell. He's in the commercials with her.
Oh, that's a bomb. I'm telling you, I predict a bomb. That's a huge bomb.
Me too. If the fucking if the remake of that stupid Patrick Swayze movie could bomb, what was that?
That's a bomb. Chips is gonna fucking fall flat on his face.
I know. I think so too. It wasn't even a great show when it was on in the 80s. No one really.
I never watched it.
Revered.
Nobody gave a shit. BJ and the Bear was better than Chips.
Oh, I love BJ and the Bear.
And that explains so much. I never watched BJ and the Bear. Come on. A fucking trucker and a bear? Come on. And a monkey? Come on. Who the fuck?
Dude, it had a monkey. That was all we cared about.
Fuck the monkeys.
It had a great theme song.
Yeah. I don't know. Now you're going to make me... I don't want to Google it.
BJ McKay, and this is my best friend, Bear.
Oh, yeah.
It had that hot Audrey Landers.
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah, big deal. She barely did anything on it. You saw more skin on Dynasty than in BJ and the Bear.
I mean, I was like 8.
Yeah, any
no, you weren't. You were in your teens when that was on.
All right, let me see. Let me see.
BJ and the Bear was on from, I'm going to say, 82 to 85. I'm guessing.
Now we're Googling.
I know, right?
1978, Jesus.
BJ and the Bear?
Yeah,
Yep.
so I was 8.
Jesus, 78 to when?
BJ and the Bear was 78 to 81.
81.
Holy
78,
fuck, 78, 81. Fuck.
Yep.
It's the reason we're called all the nerds, Dad.
Yes. Well, you were what, 10? You were 10 when it showed up?
We got to represent people. This was back when shows were as stupid as possible. This show was about a truck driver with his
So in 78, Patrick, you were what, 12?
Yeah.
You lying ass. You were older than that, I could tell.
No, I was 12. I was born in 65.
Oh.
Oh, you were almost 13. Fuck.
Well, it was October 65.
Fuck.
How did we get on BJ? Oh, because we talked about Chips.
You know what else they said? They said they were going to remake The Greatest American Hero. I haven't heard a thing about it since then.
Dude, they've been saying that for years, and I would love it.
Supposed to be a woman. Supposed to be a woman this time, and they were going to update it. I thought, okay, that's
really?
Great.
I didn't hear. Wow.
Yeah, I've been seeing that float around for years. They've been talking about remaking that, and William Catt has been behind. He's been a real advocate.
Of course, because he probably wants to get. He's going to get executive producer and make some money off of it. Sure.
Yeah, he'll probably get it. I mean, if they made it really funny, it could be a great update.
Oh, jeez.
I
All
remember
right.
my dad actually liked that show, Greatest American Hero.
I loved Greatest American Hero.
No, so did I, but my dad liking it, I was like, what's going on here?
Because of Connie Selica. That's why.
I don't know. I can't remember why he liked it.
He might have liked it because of the William
Selica.
Pope, the Bill Maxwell character, the old crotchety FBI guy.
Connie Selica. That's why.
Connie Selica. I used to watch. What was the stewardess show she was on?
Oh, fuck
Up
yeah.
in the Air.
I think you're right. Yes.
I watched that just for her.
Exactly. Now we're turning into creepy elder nerds.
Now we're creepy old men. Now we're talking about
Well, we were like 11 though.
Yeah, what was that William Shatner show? The T.J. Hooker. Who was the hot chick? Was it Heather Lock?
Yes. We were just talking about the Heathers last week
Yeah.
night. Why were we talking about the Heathers?
Yeah. Why were we talking about that?
No, Heather Locklear and Heather Thomas were both hot at the same time. Like, I mean, popular wise.
Remember back in the 80s, they were like every show had like hot chicks. You had Wonder Woman had Linda Carter, who was just stunning. You had Lindsay Wagner was hot in her day. You had Charlie's Angels. You know, Jackie. What was her? Jackie, whatever the fuck. Who was the hot lady? Jacqueline Smith.
But my favorite was Cheryl Ladd.
Same here.
Right. But they were all hot, though. I mean, even the ones that weren't as hot were hot.
Like three lonely, creepy guys on a park bench talking about hot women. That's what this sounds like now.
Yeah, but they were hot. Yeah, but we were like 11 when they were hot. So it's like now, you know.
So it's good to talk about when you're 11. When you're hitting 50.
Yeah, but we didn't know what the fuck hot was when they were 11. We just knew that something made us feel funny, and we had to stare at them.
Feel funny in the pants.
Flying High, Gary. That was just called Flying High. It was 1978 to 1979. It was a horrible show, and I never missed it.
Exactly. I remember it, yes.
It's like Baywatch. Like, why did you watch Baywatch? You only watch Baywatch to watch shitty stuff.
No. Why I watched Baywatch, my brother and I used to torture my sister with Mitch Buchanan. We would talk about Mitch Buchanan like he was like larger than life. Like, oh, Mitch did this. She's like, shut up, I don't want to hear about Mitch.
You know what's funny? If any feminist listens to this part of the podcast, they're going to so much shit. But they'll never hear this podcast because who cares? They won't even care.
Yes. Okay. Let's put it like this. The only reason to watch Baywatch was two reasons. Nicole Eggert. That's it.
And Pamela Anderson.
I like Nicole Eggert. I like Nicole Eggert way less.
Kind of thing. You know what I noticed? There's no reigning sex symbol.
What was?
That's a good topic. That is a good topic to talk about.
Wait, hold on one second.
We're over 2 hours and 10 minutes now. Jesus.
Oh, what? Fuck California. What about California? Wells was she was the hottest thing for. Well, look at Christy Brinkley. She's in her 60s and she just did that swimsuit cover.
Yes, it was amazing. No, but I mean, you remember, like, as you go along, there was sort of like this one woman that it was just held up as the sex symbol.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I don't think you see that now. I couldn't point to it. Maybe Jennifer Lawrence did a little bit, but you know,
I don't think Jennifer.
I don't think I'm having a hurry.
Her as a sex symbol, no, because
but you know what the problem is? The problem now is that.
Trying to think who would be a sex symbol.
I mean, there were hot chicks in Hollywood, and everybody acknowledges them. They're hot, you know, but they don't. Not like the way we used to.
Yes. Hell,
like the last time I feel that happened was what's her name in Dukes of Hazzard? What's her name? Jessica Simpson. When she was.
No, that was Catherine Oh, you mean the remake?
No, I'm talking about the movie.
The remake?
It was last time, yeah, that was what, some other numbers. But I remember when she got that role, she got herself in amazing shape, and she was on Burger commercials, and she was on this and that.
2004, 2005 was that?
Like, I feel like it was the last time, Pamela Anderson, Baywatch.
Symbol? Jessica Simpson? That's... As a pure sex symbol? That's...
You know what I mean? Like, elevated to, like, you go to any college.
Yeah.
And they had the poster of her on the wall, of the Daisy Group.
Jesus, yeah.
I remember her being on, like, 3 or 4 different commercials right as that came out. And it was all just her being hot.
That's... Yeah, I'm trying to think, because that was,
like,
what, 2003?
Pamela Anderson was the one, right? There was no doubt about it. Pamela Anderson was the biggest sex symbol in the world.
Right. But, I mean, in the 90s, yeah, you had, like, her, Carmen Electra, and then you had, remember Cindy Margolis, who was, like, the most downloaded woman on the internet?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Jessica Simpson in the 2000s?
But, like, it just had, like, that body, and she came and went quick. She was, like, the reigning sex symbol.
Yeah, that's good. And that was tied into her being most sex symbols nowadays are tied to music when you think about it. Like, she was a singer. Beyonce's, started off as a singer. Taylor's.
I'm not in that song. I'm not saying that there aren't people that are looked at like Nicki Minaj. I guess but there isn't like that one above all. Like, remember Raquel Welch? Raquel Welch reigned over it. Marilyn Manson reigned over it.
Marilyn Monroe.
Farrah. Remember the Farrah poster everywhere?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anyone.
Like.
That's true.
It's like.
Hello.
Sexy Smith. Hey, you dropped out.
You dropped out?
Alive. Like, that's still kind of a big thing. Remember when who was the first big Sports Illustrated? Elle McPherson was just everything.
Was huge. Or Cheryl Tiegs was really the first.
Yeah.
In the 70s, and then Elle McPherson, Christy Brinkley, Kathy Ireland. Those were all in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like you already was talking about supermodels. Like, are there really any supermodels like the way that Cindy and
no, not anymore.
Naomi Campbell, like this just
remember even a couple of years ago that Kate Beaton was really hot, and now she seems to have cooled down a lot. She's she's dating Justin Verlander of the Detroit Tigers, but she doesn't seem. She's on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
The fashion changed, and everybody started getting skinnier and less curvier, and then you had like Kate Moss and these other anorexic cokeheads becoming models, and
well, I think it's also because people have become pussies. Like you can't ogle women anymore. Or else
this podcast is going to be the #1 podcast with feminists everywhere.
they're gonna love us, those angry bitches.
I think IMDb, because I never left IMDb page. There's always guys taking out lists of like beautiful actresses. Like I can't remember. There was one. It was like a ridiculous name. It was all like actors that make my little pity become big people. Like, but anyway, I'm now one now. Ava Gardner is this guy's #1, and Barbara Eden is #2.
Oh, I love Barbara Eden.
Oh, I love
Me too. She's going to be at the Carbonero show.
Yeah.
This weekend, I think.
What's another thing is, I mean, again,
she's 70.
It might be nostalgia goggles, but I feel like a lot of the actresses in our day aged better, and it was the pre-plastic surgery era, where plastic surgery really wasn't as advanced as it is now, and so they didn't opt for that, and they just kind of aged gracefully. Like Linda Carter and Lindsay Wagner looked fantastic, and I don't know if they had work, but it really doesn't look like it.
No, you could be right. I mean, they could have work, but I think someone like Linda Carter and Lindsay Wagner, like they know how to rein themselves in.
Oh,
they just age.
They age naturally, but if they had plastic surgery, like you said, you can't tell. Well, you look at some of these, Joyce Wildenstein and some of these rap artists, and like they get the lips blown up and the eyes pulled back, and it just looks.
Yeah, they look ridiculous. They look like surprised ducks.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, what are they? Like, what pictures of women are they looking at? Going like, yes,
what look are you going for?
Right here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's what I want to look like.
Unfortunately, that is a psychological thing, and that's sad.
Yeah.
But
I maybe it is nostalgia, but I don't think so. I mean, I think just realistically, like plastic surgery wasn't as readily available or wasn't as advanced in our youth as it is now, and the actresses just had to take care of themselves, and they seem to age better.
Xena still looks great.
Oh, Lucy Lawless looks great. She looks incredible. But I mean, look at like Joan Collins and those type of actresses. Like they all aged really well,
and they took care of themselves. I
mean, whatever they did, they aged gracefully. They looked beautiful as older women. They didn't look all wretched and pulled back, and they didn't turn themselves. Yeah. They still had their elegance about them. Like Raquel Welch still looks great for her age.
Yeah, well, Raquel Welch. Yeah, you figure, look at her career. I mean, when she wasn't doing movies anymore, she went into physical fitness. Remember, she had those videos in the '80s with Jane Fonda.
Suzanne Summers is another one that after Three's Company. Yeah, after Three's Company, she started doing the Bowflex and all that shit, and just stayed healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Eat well, exercise, stay healthy. They knew all that. Now it just seems like get plastic surgery to like pick up your chin, instead of working.
It's the quick fix.
How old is Scarlett Johansson?
30, 35, I would bet.
She's still in Charlie Theron. Holy crap, that woman is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? The guys in media are just as guilty. There's plenty of guys getting calf implants and ab implants and pectoral implants and fast track.
Like Gary said, the psychological aspect, and you
Yeah, yeah.
In an industry where, let's face it, you have to look good.
Man,
it's super. But actors weren't necessarily attractive in films and stuff back in the days. Like Dustin Hoffman was never really a good-looking guy. Robert De Niro was never really a good-looking guy.
No, people think Robert De Niro's a good-looking guy, and I guess. But Pete, man, you forget about Paul Newman, who had to be like the best-looking American actor of all time. Robert Redford, guys like that fucking dominated movies from the 50s to the 80s.
Back in the 70s.
I mean, look at Paul Newman. Look how great he aged. Yeah. When he was on Letterman in the 90s, he fucking still looked like the hottest man on earth.
Well, look at Eastwood. I mean, Eastwood.
Yeah, he's gorgeous in that. He's gorgeous. I mean, Clint Eastwood is good looking. Even today, Clint Eastwood, you could say, is still a good looking man for like 80 something.
80? He's like 400. No, he's not a good looking man. He looks like a tree. He's like an old. His skin is made of.
No, he's a good looking dude. He's still a good looking dude.
No, he's fucking ancient beyond belief. He looks like a fucking crypt keeper. Are you kidding me? He's good looking. You're insane.
He is. He's still good looking. He still holds up. He still has the squint. He still has the rugged good looks. He still has the demeanor. That all ends up to him being good looking. How old is Clint Eastwood?
He's 1,000 years old.
No, I bet you he's 83. 83.
He's 307.
Maybe in a day.
Pete, you're an ageist. You're ageism. You're
After a certain age, you just gotta fucking go into hiding.
All right, he'll be 87 in May. Clint Eastwood.
He was close. Stay home. After that RNC shit where he came out and he had a whole speech with an empty chair, I was like, all right, you need to stay home.
Got a son that was in Suicide Squad, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, Pete, you're an ageist. You're an ageist.
For shit. What is his son's name? Because he fucking can't act for shit. I saw 2 movies that went direct to DVD, and he plays like a cowboy-ish type of character in both movies. Can't remember what the fuck they are, and they were unwatchable. I was like, wow, he has like none of the charisma of his father.
I guess. Other than Suicide Squad, I don't think I ever saw him in anything.
No, I'll tell you, they're 2 fucking VOD movies. I'll have to IMDb them, but they're awful. He's just he should have changed his last name. Spare his father the embarrassment.
Oh man, that's cold.
He's never gonna hear this. Imagine he did.
God, we're awful. We're fucking awful.
Hey, stop acting because you're embarrassing your dad.
This is Jesus. 2:20 we're at. When do we call it quits?
when we run out of booze.
Well, I finished my beer. How are you doing on your wine?
I think I have one more glass worth of wine in this particular bottle. Listen, this makes up for last week, which was interesting but a bit slow.
Yeah.
No offense to Mike.
No, not at all. No offense to Mike. It was just that we did it at 11:30, which.
Yeah, I was so wiped out when we started doing that. But the information he gave was good. It was a little. I felt like the topic in particular was a little too in. Like it might have isolated like the casual listener.
But like you said, we still haven't know what our theme of the show is. So we're just going to throw anything up against the wall. If people liked it, people liked it. But yeah, no more doing it at 11:30 at night. Just
do it until 11:30 at night.
There you go.
I know. The elder nerds need their sleep. At some point.
Yeah, that's like I can't do midnight. I can stay up till like 2, 3 in the morning, but for some reason I can't see a midnight showing of a movie. I'll fucking knock out. I'll be fighting the sleep goblin in a midnight movie. But if I'm home, I can stay up till all kinds of hours. But for some reason, I can't do a midnight showing anymore.
But when you're up at home, are you doing something or just sitting on the couch watching TV?
No, I'm always doing something. I'm on the computer.
See, that's it.
I'm physically engaged in something. With a movie, I guess because I'm just sitting there and staring at
in a comfortable seat. You're in a comfortable seat. You're not doing anything. Your brain is not really. Your brain is more concentrating on just watching the movie instead of, like you're saying, you're doing stuff with your hands at home. You're being active.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I had to go see Logan at 7 o'clock, so I was like, after that, I'll fucking fall asleep on that shit.
We saw a 7:30 show. Yeah, that's what we did too last night.
Well, meanwhile, I came home and I was up till like 1:30 in the morning.
No, that's
But if I
cool, by the way. You know, they used to start like Thursday midnight shows for these big blockbusters, and then they started putting the 10 o'clock show, and now they're putting the 7 o'clock show. I wonder if it's going to be all day, you know, and it's going to be Thursday. It's just going to.
I think for the bigger movies, they just they want. I mean, the idea is to show the movie as many times during the day as possible, which is why film times are what they are. Remember films used to be 90 minutes, so that way they could show it more times in a day. And then you had movies like Titanic, which broke the mold and showed that a 3-hour movie could make serious box office money, even though you were showing it less times during the day because of its runtime.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Wolverine was, 2 hours and 15 minutes or something?
Yeah,
like that?
and it didn't feel like it.
When I got home, I was like, holy crap, I was late.
Well, we bullshitted for a while afterwards. And,
but still, it was like...
It was 2:15, but it didn't feel like a 2-hour, 15-minute movie, you know?
No,
like
it flew by.
Like Force Awakens was 2 hours, 5 minutes, or 2.5 hours, and that felt like a fucking 2.5-hour movie to me. Force Awakens.
So Gary, he hated that movie.
That was fun. I enjoyed that movie.
It was a well done. It was a well done mediocrity, is what I like to say.
Oh, shush! You shut your face.
I'm sorry. It's just warmed over story.
How dare you?